Marfoogle News live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you didn't think World War III is already at play, then I would highly recommend you to watch our show. We've been covering everything that is going on for the last 8 years, and if you look at this story, this is just one more sign that something massive is about to happen, besides all of the other events of the last 24 hours, which we'll be going over later. U.S. military officials required to sign NDAs tied to Latin American mission. Now, we have covered every step that the White House has taken to essentially clamp down on any kind of information going out of the White House. Now, again, we're not supposed to be sharing out White House information, and reporters for years have had free reign of the Pentagon, and essentially they have leaked out, every story left and right that you can think of. In fact, they used to be able to walk around the Pentagon and essentially grill people and kind of snatch up stories. Well, they ended up putting a kind of an NDA type thing or an agreement to the reporters and kicked almost everybody out of the Pentagon. And we say that because they gave them an agreement so kind of tight restricted that everybody just left, except for O and N. Again, this is really, really crazy. Listen to this. This is obviously something much bigger than people are thinking. U.S. military officials involved with President Donald's expanding operations in Latin America have been asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. 3 U.S. officials say a development that raises new questions about a military buildup that Venezuela fears may lead to an invasion. Now, when you think of all of the stuff we have covered, including the bridges being built in the Darien Gap, all of this that's going on down in Venezuela and other countries that we're leading all of these people physically into our country, physically into our border, which is now being clamped down to prevent an invasion. Now Venezuela is the main focus. And again, this is very, very crazy stuff because now a huge chunk of our military is down there without any order for war because now they are considered narco-terrorists. They have attached Maduro, the president, to this actual narco-terrorism, so they don't have to go to Congress to go to war. Right now, they had 8 warships already. They sent a carrier group down there, and people are believing that this is all to track down speedboats and to take out the narcos before they get here. I don't think so. I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense. The step is highly unusual given that the U.S. military officials are already required to shield national security secrets from public view and comes as lawmakers in Congress say that they're being kept in the dark about key aspects of the mission. The official who spoke to Reuters on the condition of anonymity did not know how many members of the U.S. Defense Department had been asked to sign the agreements and did not offer further details on the scope of the NDAs. Well, the Defense Department has turned to NDAs from time to time since Pete Hegseth became Defense Secretary in January. The Pentagon's use of non-disclosure agreements specific to activities in Latin America has not been previously reported. The Pentagon announced last week the deployment of the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier group to Latin America, escalating a military buildup that experts say far exceeds any requirement for counter-narcotics operations, the stated intent for the U.S. mission so far. The U.S. military has carried out at least 13 strikes against alleged drug vessels, and again, mostly in the Caribbean since early September. And it says the carrier strike group adds roughly another 10,000 troops and enormous firepower and buildup that already includes guided missile destroyers, F-35 fighter jets, a nuclear submarine, and around 6,500 troops. The Pentagon has not explained why such firepower is required for a counter-narcotics operation. So, this is just crazy. Hegseth has taken a series of course, information since taking over in January. He told the Pentagon staff that they must obtain permission before interacting with members of Congress. Again, then they ended up clamping down on Congress as well. About a few days later, we ended up talking about how they are clamping on what information that the Congress are able to move around. I mean, this is obviously the beginning of something. Now, regular people are looking at this and going how does this fit into everything? Well, we thought we were going to war with Russia. We thought we were going to war with China. Well, because Russia, China, Iran, all of these are all in one entity right now, mostly spearheaded by China. And they are going to use Venezuela. They're going to use that area. They're going to use the physical land. And this is crazy to think about. If we go to a physical war, which is why we would make something like, I don't know, a Golden Dome system, they would use that land as an invasion route. And they would, I don't know, say build bridges big enough for tanks to go across in the Darien Gap instead of having to roll through the jungle. It's pretty crazy, but again, this is what I think is happening. And I think that we already had soldiers coming in over the last 4 years to help set this up. So very, very crazy stuff. Again, it is an incredible theory, and I sure hope it is not true. We're going to talk about the rest of this in just a second. First off, before we move on, though, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is one of the devices and technology used by agencies like DHS, DOD, the Department of War again, and FBI and Air Force right now. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can easily wire this into your car in less than 10 minutes. 3 wires, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground, and protect it against an EMP strike. That means you are going to get home after an EMP or even a CME from the sun, a Carrington level event from the sun. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, they do cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, solar and gas. Again, and your home, Starlink, modems, everything you can think of, they have a protection for it. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use code MARF. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. Just fine.
So, general theme of today, there's going to be a lot about Venezuela because something massive is happening down there. So obviously you've got Pete Hegseth, signing this agreement, and now tell us about this heavy Russian cargo plane that is landing in Caracas.
Well, yeah, and real quick on the NDA part, I was thinking, I wonder if that is to keep them from talking about things that may not be considered national security, but are relevant to what's going on in Venezuela. So they're trying to keep them to be silent on anything Venezuela. So get this, though, a Russian transport aircraft of the type linked to the country's military and former Wagner mercenary group has landed. This is a large cargo plane, has landed in Venezuela capital over the weekend. So a lot of people are speculating that something may be going on there. So the Ocean 1176 transport aircraft with registration RA78765 arrived in Caracas on Sunday after a 2-day journey it took from Russia via Armenia, Algeria, Morocco, Senegal, and Mauritania to Latin America. According to the flight records, it appears the aircraft embarked on its trip from an airport in the greater Moscow area. So with the transponder signal first being picked up shortly after takeoff. So multi-stop journey is emblematic of the courteous routes used to avoid the Western airspace. So they had to sort of get away from Western airspace to get over here. But what do you think's on this? I guess that's the big question. It's an air transport, 50 tons of potential cargo, up to 200 people could be on there. It's been linked to the Wagner Group in the past, coming directly from Moscow right into Caracas, the capital of Venezuela.
Some have speculated that this could have been a nuke being moved. Some say that it could have been a special unit to, do any kind of mercenary work. We don't know. What are you guys' opinions here? Let us know in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you. But this to me, what this screams is that Russia is directly involved, obviously, with Venezuela. But if you're talking about why are we done in Venezuela and this whole thing with Russia, this is setting up for the war with Russia, Venezuela, Iran. All of these guys are going to be together. The battlefield is going to be a mixture of their countries and our countries. I mean, it already is. If you look at Ukraine, you already have North Koreans and possibly others that are already on the battlefield. In Ukraine, you have on our side, you have French and other countries saying that, they're jumping in or that they were going to jump in. And then, of course, we've got these crazy stories where you have Russian citizens, U.S. citizens, Polish citizens, perishing in the Ukraine conflict. And they're saying that in some cases, one of them was super crazy, says the guy went MIA from our military to go volunteer for Ukraine, perished, basically humiliated himself at home to go fight for Ukraine and volunteer. and the guy was like, high, super specialist dude. Like, come on. People don't believe this stuff. Basically, we had boots in the ground very early on in this thing, because this is a proxy conflict between us and Russia, which I don't think anybody is, that's not a secret at this point anymore. So yeah, this is going to blow up. And now Russia's essentially working with Venezuela. Venezuela, we are about to try to do some sort of preemptive attack, because this is World War III. So yeah, it's looking like they're going to invade. And then look at what's going on at home. We'll talk about the food stamp stuff that is happening as well in our next show. Dex, let's talk about this Nobel Prize winner that says Venezuela has a unique $1.7 trillion opportunity. Here's motive.
Yeah, certainly. So she won the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, which a lot of folks thought Trump was going to win, but she did sort of hat tip to him after she won it. But she won it because she was campaigning against Maduro, against what he has been doing, and describing what she calls him being a dictator and et cetera, et cetera. But she has come out with this plan. It's not new. She's had it before, but she's really pushing it hard, which is the privatization, as she calls it, of the nation, and transforming the nation and putting a $1.7 trillion value on this, so our opportunity. So the interesting thing is, when you look at what she's describing, she's obviously, we all know that the Venezuela used to be one of the richest nations in the world. It's now, pretty much in the dumpers, so to speak, as far as it's turned into one of the poorest countries. But it's over 80% down, I think, over the last several years. But she's putting together a plan that she wants to see bringing in external investment from, the likes of the United States and other Western capitalistic countries, even the Middle East and others, that could bring in big money to help revitalize, build back up all of their infrastructure. Obviously, get the oil and gas sectors flowing so they can make massive money. And it's a $1.7 trillion call. Now, I think what this really means is we're looking at the potential candidate to replace Maduro should they overthrow the country. So that's what, and she's in hiding. She doesn't necessarily hang out in Venezuela because she would be taken out by Maduro immediately. But yes, this is more than likely the new plant that they want to put in.
And I'm sure many of you did not even hear that she won the Nobel Prize rather than the president. A lot of people talked about when, everybody was talking about the president possibly getting it. I'm sure many of you didn't even hear about this. And that, I don't know if it is an accident. And then this is a giant thing, too. So yesterday, they said that Venezuela claims of capture of a CIA group, accuses the U.S. of plotting a Fantastic Freddy attack. Now, again, I'll zoom in on this. This one has a history with all of our community, right? So most people understand what this is. You, of course, have a country that possibly could attack itself and make it look like another country did it to start a war. So you can say, hey, he punched me first. Or you can have it look like another third-party country has attacked that other country to start a war between two other countries, or punch somebody, run and say, hey, it was that guy. That's exactly what a Fantastic Freddy is, right? And now they're saying that they caught the CIA group, which is believable because we approved CIA to go in. The president authorized CIA to do operations there. Now, Nicolas Maduro regime said Sunday Venezuela has captured a group of alleged mercenaries with ties to the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency and accused Washington and Trinidad and Tobago of coordinating military exercises intended to provoke an armed confrontation with the Caribbean. In a statement released by Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, the socialist government said that the arrests revealed what it described as a Fantastic Freddy operation planned from waters bordering Trinidad and Tobago, which is what most of us think it is. It's crazy that most of what he is saying, we're kind of like, yeah, that does look like what's going on, right? And it says to generate a full-scale military confrontation against Venezuela. The regime's announcement comes amid fast-growing buildup of U.S. forces in the Caribbean launched by the president to combat drug cartels. People still will believe the front page because they're saying, no, this is a cartel operation. I've had emails from folks that are the supporters of the president saying this is to combat drugs. That's all it is. Why are you so stupid, thinking that this is more than what's there? So this is a huge operation. You don't take the 20,000 plus troops and freaking a whole chunk of our Navy to fight the drug operation. You don't take that to attack speedboats. This is crazy if people are still going to think this. And what tells me on their end, they've got information from Russia. They had and put out information before the U.S. was able to, do some of these operations. And the response from that is the U.S. ended up clamping down on information. And what I suspect is that information was directly being leaked because we have Russian spies in our government, and it was being leaked to the people in Venezuela, and that's why they're clamping down, because they are essentially saying what's going to happen before it's happening. And that's not good for any military operation, unless it's some sort of 4D chess and they're, trying to do that and they're trying to say it in front of Vlad or, Stervelovanik in, the Pentagon. So he then relays it back and does it. This is very, very, very big deal because we're talking about war with Venezuelan. People are like, oh, it's Venezuela. We'll beat them up. Look at their military compared to ours. We're not talking about just Venezuelan's military. We're talking about Venezuela and Russia, Russia and Iran, Iran and China, because there's a coordinated event that's going to happen that's going to kick off all of these because all of our adversaries have a goal and we are about to be in a resource war for our planet. Our petrodollar isn't going to last long unless things change. We're going to have different currencies. We're going to have a different resource behind those currencies. So very, very crazy. And then Dex, there's even more kind of, possible evidence here that something massive is going on. Talk about Nicolas Maduro's pilot.
Yeah. So they're saying that the U.S. sought to so the feds were trying to lure Nicolas Maduro's pilot to get him into betraying him. So a federal agent had a daring pitch for the chief pilot. All he wanted to do was surreptitiously divert the Venezuelan president's plane to a place where U.S. authorities could nab the strongman. In exchange, the agent told the pilot in a clandestine meeting that the aviator would be made a very rich man. The conversation was tense, and the pilot left non-committal, though he provided the agent, Edwin Lopez, with his cell phone number, a sign that he might be interested in helping the U.S. government. Over the next 16 months, even after retiring from his government job, Lopez kept at it, chatting with the pilot over encrypted messaging apps. So obviously it didn't happen. It didn't come to fruition yet. But apparently now must be dead enough that he's talking about it in public and putting it out. But this is the type of scenarios they go through to try to overthrow and take out the governments. And in this case, they've got a $50 million bounty, I think it is, on Maduro's head. It's pretty significant, whatever the current, $50 million is the current bounty. So, getting the pilot to, divert him and land him in a location where the federal authorities could grab him and bring him back to the U.S. would certainly probably give him instant access to 50 million plus whatever else they were going to offer.
And I mean, 50 million is enough for many, special military groups to be going at Maduro from all over the world. So there's probably several smaller operations. I'm sure he has to worry about getting taken out every single day with $50 million bounty on his head. I mean, heck, that is so much more than most of the, top cards in the Al-Qaeda had on their head. The Al-Qaeda that had it on their head that didn't get it dropped immediately when they became CIA pawns. But again, that's just a whole nother story in itself. Make sure to, of course, go check out the description down below. We have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. So we have a source list. So if you don't believe us, go check our sources yourself. Think about what is happening right now. It is very obvious that the forward-facing thing is like, everything's okay. We're just trying to clean up America. I believe that there are multiple truths. Two things can be true at the same time. They may be doing things that are trying to clean us up at the same time as preemptively either trying to stop a World War III or to start one. We'll talk about the rest of what's going on. Again, I was wrong. There will be no SNAP benefits on the 1st. So we'll talk about what that means in just 3 days' time. Something massive is about to happen, and it is causing waves throughout the entire country. We'll talk about that here in just a moment, so make sure to join us for that next one. If you're in the chat, just stay here. You'll be ported over. If you are watching the replay, make sure to click here. See you guys in just a minute. Be safe, be prepared. Marf out.